Dear listeners, we gather here today to pay tribute to a beloved member of our podcast family. You knew him as Ned the Neato, the squishy, tactile marvel who brought joy and stress relief to our recordings. Last week, in a tragic turn of events, Ned met his untimely end. Yes, dear friends, Ned has exploded. It was a moment of sheer enthusiasm that proved too much for our dear friend. He gave his all, literally, and is now scattered among the podcasting equipment, never to be whole again. In honor of Ned's contributions, we present to you his first introduction on our show. Let's remember him as he was, full of squish, ready to comfort, and always there to allow me to put my fingers into his ears. So grab a tissue, hold your stress balls tight, and join us as we journey back to the fateful day when Ned the Neato first bounded into our hearts. Rest in pieces, Ned. You will be missed. Literally crying over a stress ball.
Okay, Michelle. All right, Megan.
I'm trying to be zen and you're like, ah!
This right here explains the difference of you and I.
All right, bring it on, Megan. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to Sisters.
Sisters.
They were never such devoted
Sisters.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you, fabulous. Okay, so we are talking all things neurofabulous. We said neurolux last time. Do we have any other good
Neuro chic?
Ooh, neuro chic. I love it. And we're really focusing on your ADHD-ness in this series.
Yeah.
And so usually I bring up something, so I will do that today as well. And then we kind of like dig into that brain of yours to figure out what's going on. And then we like to look at like strategies, things that might help or solutions to things that you've come up with. And then we love to check with our community to find out what their ideas are because, you know, not everything works the same for everyone. And, you know, we need different ideas to try things out. So today I would like to talk about this sort of need for not intense, but sort of light stimulation. And I told you we were going to talk about this. And I'm like, I don't really even know what that means. So what does that mean to you? I mean, you were like, oh, I know exactly what that means.
Because I do.
Okay, so educate me. What does like this need for light stimulation mean?
I'm going to assume it goes back to the dopamine hits. It's so easy for my body to kind of get into this like hyper-focused outside of myself kind of thing that the light stimulation I think brings me back to reality. And it also can sort of channel the hyperactivity while I'm doing a project.
Okay. So right now you're doing a project.
Yep.
Right? Your brain wants to go float off into what's in your brain that wants to float off to right now? Do you have anything?
Well, I do have to finish the computer.
Okay, so you're thinking about a computer you have to finish.
But I mean, if I could really float off to like whatever I wanted to float off into,
yeah,
I would want to work on a puzzle right now. It's like the perfect kind of puzzle day to separate pieces and just like have a whole conversation with them. But it would be a very specific type of puzzle.
Oh,
because they have these mystery puzzles there's one now called odd pieces where, you know, there's like a whole story behind them. And that just sounds fabulous.
Okay, so you would just float away, but no, you're stuck here with me in this podcast, Megan. So then how do you stay what's that light stimulation you're using right now to stay focused? Are you going to share?
Yes.
You always have something. I never know what it is.
Well, this is the new one because I was like, I need something that's a little bit less painful than some of the other ones that we've used. I got this little, it's like a bear.
It looks like a giant gummy bear.
Yeah, it is. It's like a giant gummy bear.
Oh my gosh. It's blue.
Uh-huh. I didn't have
what's
a chance
its little name on its belly?
It says Needo. Needoh.
Like you're kneading it. Okay.
Yeah. But they have like squares, but then I just thought that the gummy bear was hilarious.
And it's like as you're pushing it, it's like a stress ball kind of.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know.
But it like makes these like weird bubbles, which are fun to play with your finger.
Okay.
And it just does like, and then I can like play with the little ears and I push the ears in.
Okay.
And then I'm doing this a lot of times.
You're sticking your fingers into his head. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm feeling it like come out like, ooh, that's fun. Or I'm just trying like one, like I was doing this a little while ago. I was like just doing one ear and trying to see if I can get it to stay, but just trying, I just keep thinking of like a lightning rod. Like it focuses a lot of my physical energy that I need to get out into one location. And then it stimulates whatever that is while I'm talking to you so I can stay focused.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally sitting here with my hands folded in my lap.
Oh yeah, no, I'm full on in gummy bear ears right now.
That just sounds wrong, but I love it. Okay, so I think you kind of already are instinctually digging into your brain a little bit, but I'm
like literally digging into
the bear's brain.
Bear's brain all the way through his butt.
But I want to kind of go the other direction for a second. Like if you don't have that in your hands, I don't want you to not do that because I know how hard that is for you. But when you don't have something like that, like say you were at school, right? And you didn't have those things available to you or it wasn't acceptable to have those things. What happens in your brain when you don't have it?
I get really antsy physically. But I think I just struggle to hear.
Interesting.
And to process what people are saying.
Ah. So we should have like those little gummy bear things like everywhere, all over the house.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or take one in my purse and hand it to you if we go out to eat or something.
Yeah.
Here's your Needo.
Here's your Needo.
So you actually feel like some of your other senses get shut down in some way when you're not able to kind of have this dissipate this physical energy in some way.
Yeah, because there's some of this this physical attention is going to something else, but it's nothing that I have to catalog. Strangely enough, or maybe I've already I've been kind of cataloging it actually as we go together, like as we have been talking. Like I was pushing in the little feet, and I was feeling what that was like when I was listening to you at one point. And, I was like, oh, what happens if I push in just 2 or all 4? Or, I try different things out. But after a while, it kind of just becomes not white noise, but it doesn't require as much for me to, I'm not like playing, I'm just playing around with it to play and keep me focused.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, what does it feel like to you, like the emotions that go through you when you are playing with this? Is it just like calming? Is it soothing? Is it?
I think it's sort of like, because when I don't have anything in my hands, I think it's probably easier to say like what I do when I don't have something.
Yeah,
because if I don't have this, then my legs are going. They're what's the word? They're like
fidgeting.
Yeah. Or like a lot of times I'll take my nail and just sort of like tap on my leg just to kind of have some sort of a feeling that's not hard. What else do I do?
But I remember one of the podcasts, like I asked you to sit still and you were like, Michelle, I have to decide when I do that. And I was like, wow, what's that emotion? right? Where like you're not getting this stuff out. It's like it must be what for you?
It is suffocating. And I think I had such a strong emotion with that one because I was told for so long how to, I had to sit still. I had to pay attention. And I'm like, I'm trying to, but sitting still does not let me pay attention.
You don't understand. I'm distracting you, but it's not distracting me.
Exactly.
Right? Because I do think sometimes some of the things that you do to get that energy out are really distracting to me.
Yeah.
But that's, not your problem, but it's, my problem.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and I mean, I'm open to trying something different, if it's distracting somebody else. Cause like, that's not, I'm not trying to distract someone else, like, especially like with sounds and things. Like I think there are quiet ways to fidget. And are there ways that I would like to fidget more than others? For sure. Like, is there one that feels really, let's see if I can, oh yeah. So I found them, Michelle. So these are the little magnets.
Oh yeah. Those little magnet rocks
that, and they make this like sound. Can you hear that?
Yeah. That's interesting.
I enjoy, like with this, I like to.
So you love taking those magnet rocks and kind of like twirling them around in your hand and separating them and having them click back together. That whole process feels good.
The clicking feels really good. And if I'm by myself and there's no one else around, like I will click these until it drives me crazy. And then I'm like, Megan, stop, it's driving me crazy. But there's something about the physical, like when it comes together, it clicks, but it also there's like this kind of vibration that happens when it clicks. And so it just feels delicious. It just, that's all I can say is like, it feels so good in my hand. And it's way more, I enjoy that so much more than like squeezing this guy. But then like squeezing this guy is like useful while I'm trying to stay quiet.
Yeah. Right.
So, there's different things that I would use versus others, but yeah, like trying to stay quiet for the most part is a big one.
Yeah. And difficult to do. So your strategies that you're using are based on the situation you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what is required of you at that time. But you're always looking for this light stimulation. Yeah.
I mean, whether it's shaking my feet or, it's changing my body positioning. I'm always looking for something to kind of, I'm not looking for it to be jarring for sure, but like, that light stimulation sounds like is what I need, which I think is why I don't want to do a tattoo because it's like, everyone's like, oh, it's just like, tapping on your skin like that. And yes, while that's light stimulation, it's like, it's constant. So it's not light, it's obnoxious. And I can't even do it right now. So it's like, there's like a light stimulation that's happening, but like for a lot of my body, like for a larger section of my body, not just like one pinpointed area. Cause that drives me crazy. Like if I'm using my nails and I'm trying to like, I usually like, push them up and down on my leg. But like if my shoulder was my leg, I'm kind of going, I'm going in a whole area.
You're moving around in a patch and in a whole space as opposed to like one particular water dropping on you at the same place every time. Yeah.
And it's all 5 of my nails, not just like one.
So you need it dispersed in some way.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder too, like when you think about going through life, right? So if you worked at the Apple store, for example. How did you handle that during work time?
Well, the nice thing is that you're walking around a lot. So part of that is the walking around. I would a lot of times would rub my hands or my skin up against the table, like the corner of the table, just because it would feel good.
Interesting. So those wood tables they had everywhere. Interesting. Okay.
And I had, a lot of times I would carry something in my pocket. So, sometimes I had like just a rock, like one of those gems, because it was fun and smooth or cool to the touch. The other thing I did was I always had some kind of jewelry on so that I could, play with that or feel it. Like I had all these like bracelets back in the 2010s that, they have the chunky bracelets were so in. And they'd have like some sort of carving in them so you could kind of feel them and have a little bit of a rigidity. I was recently thinking, because I've gotten into painting my nails, which sadly they're not painted right now, and I'm like showing off things. Ugh, how awful. Awful. I was thinking, like, I saw somebody making these like crazy patterns with, I think it's gel or something, and I was like, that would be so smart to have, like, you could make some sort of a
like a 3-dimensional almost nail.
Yeah, and then you could just touch that, and then they go with you wherever you're going.
How cool is that?
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, that would be really cool.
You could have different things that you could just kind of feel, because you see people like fidget with their nails, so it's like there's something that you're touching though that has some sort of structure to it that you're feeling.
And I end up like just picking at it, because I'm like, well, at least it's something I can do, which is terrible for the nails. But I'm like, if it had some sort of a texture on it, that would be fun.
And a lot of people do that with their nails nowadays, where there's diamonds and all kinds of crazy stuff that they're gluing onto it. But I like the idea of it being something sort of more subtle.
Yeah.
Potentially too.
Yeah, I don't think I was thinking subtle.
You're like neon pink, Michelle. Duh.
Oh, no, just like the raisedness of it all, like the 3-dimensionality of it. I mean, I've seen some crazy, I went down apparently
another
nail
rabbit hole
TikTok shorts thing.
I do think though that we have a nation of people who now understand what it means to be ADHD for at least temporarily. Like when you get hooked on binging, watching, or like TikToking or whatever you get going on, that you don't stop.
Well, I think we all have the ability to hyperfocus, right? Like I have the ability sometimes to have executive function. Doesn't come often, but I have it sometimes. Just like
I've seen it once.
I think I dusted him off one time and was like, "Oh, come on out to play, buddy."
So, do you think these light stimulation things that you do? And I remember you talking about having something in the car. It was one of those flip bracelets.
Yeah, I still have that.
Yeah, that has the what is it? The sequins that change back and forth between two different colors when you flip back and forth, and that helps you pay attention on the road. Do you feel like this light stimulation helps with your executive functioning? It helps you?
I don't know if it helps with executive functions. I think that he's just out for lunch always. So light stimulation isn't going to necessarily bring him back. I don't know why I've personified.
So then are there times you shouldn't be driving? Because there's so much executive functioning that has to happen with driving, right? Like I have to push the pedal. I have to turn the corner. I have to know where I'm going. I have to pay attention to the other things on the road.
That's executive function?
Yeah. That's part of it.
Huh. Maybe I just have like a half of a butler.
Just like the top half or the bottom half?
He's like a centaur.
I won't ask which half it is.
He's a centaur, Well, what I do know is that my brain likes to go off into different directions. Like we talked about, it likes to flap a lot. It likes to think about something and just kind of, it veers and it just thinks about tons of other things. And so what the light stimulation does is it brings me back from, it like kind of just gently says, hey, come on back, Megan. Let's get back to normal. Like, let's get back to the moment. I think it's kind of like anybody else, right? Like you have these grounding techniques. It's basically a grounding technique for me anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like,
you just need it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I need a lot of grounding.
Right. I mean, my brain can go other places, especially if I'm very anxious or I'm having kind of a PTSD sort of trigger, right? Like, and those things can help me too. Somebody saying like, okay, look around and tell me all the things that are blue or whatever, are needed to kind of bring you back. So that's sort of similar to you in your mind.
I wouldn't say the anxiety is similar. I have that happen too. And that's something totally different.
Okay.
This is like, I just saw my centaur, Butler, and he actually lost his heavy legs and he became winged, and he's sort of just floating around like, hey, like let's go fly around and see what's happening.
Yeah, like Never Ending Story being on that movie where he's on that big dog that floats around.
Gosh, I wonder how to describe this one, because what's happening to me when, like, so right now, for instance, right, I'm a little bit more tired, and so I feel I feel physically tired. So then my brain is struggling to kind of keep focus on this current task, and then it's like, I don't know, I just sort of like visualize like a rainbow and flowers just wafting into the air, and like that's what my brain is doing. It's like I can't even tell you what I'm thinking. It just feels like those visuals, like when you see an animation and the whole movie, the blooms just start to like open up and bloom everywhere.
I feel like we get transported into like a Lisa Frank sticker in your brain, almost like if Lisa Frank sticker could be like just like this like beautiful place that you go that's very happy.
Well, but the weird thing is, like, that's the visual I'm seeing for what's happening in my head. I'm not necessarily seeing the blossoms, right? But like if you think about the blossom, it's a metaphor or whatever they call them. I don't know. Is it a metaphor? But like the blossoms are like the different thoughts that are happening about whatever it is I'm thinking about in that moment. And they're kind of creating this beautiful bouquet in the air.
Interesting.
And it's like I'm just sort of like wafting in and out of these thoughts, and it's not necessarily like it's just the way that
you like go to smell this flower, and then you go to see this thing blooming, and then you look over at this other part of the garden or something. Is that
right? But but again, it's like the garden is just the metaphor, right? So like I'm not actually seeing flowers. I'm just trying. It's just when I'm trying to explain it.
Yeah, like this idea, that idea, this other.
Like
place.
If I'm thinking about like the gummy bear. Right. And then it's like, oh, well, I start to think about like his ears, and then I think, oh, the texture of it's weird. And like, yeah, there's this gunk that gets on it because, do I need to wash it? And like, maybe I need to put it into the water, because then what would happen if I put it into the water? And oh my gosh, his little bow tie is starting to come undone. Am I gonna break it? Oh, so like I'm just having these, and like, it kind of creates its own little, it's not anxiety inducing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's just all of these thoughts that are just
this beautiful bouquet of thoughts, and you need some light stimulation to focus you in on one of the thoughts or to focus you in on the present.
I think the present, because I think the reason why I keep doing this like motion where it's like outside of me or sort of framing me is that it has nothing to do with what's currently going on. It's a beautiful frame.
Yeah.
Right? That is happening, but it's not the moment. And so the light stimulation just sort of like, okay, let's bring it back, Megan. Like, let's come back to the moment. It's like a nice little Zen Buddha.
Yeah.
Like, let's bring it back.
Let's come back here. I got you. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's a gentle, as opposed to like, Megan. Yeah.
Because I think that's why, like, when it's like, Megan, sit still right now. And it's like, whoa, like, wait. I'm not prepared. Like, I need to finish, like, that bouquet is, needs to do what it needs to do. It needs to finish. It's just very jarring.
Yeah.
To be able to cut from whatever it is I'm doing to go right back into it. It's like any of you guys, like even you were like saying, if you think you're on one train and then I come in and I have something completely different, it's jarring. You're like, I wasn't expecting that. And so considering that like my brain does this all day long.
Gosh, you're like constantly being jarred back into the moment.
Yeah.
Wow. What does that feel like now versus when you were a kid, if you can think about that? Like, I'm wondering if that experience is a gentler experience for you now than it was, or if it hasn't changed much.
No, I think it's gentler now. When I was a kid, when you don't have a lot of life experience, it feels like the end of the world because you feel like you're never going to get back to it. It's never going to happen. And I remember this is always a thing with me. I was so negative when I was a kid, and it was always black and white. It's never going to happen. It's always going to be this way. It was very extreme because it felt that way. It felt extreme, and I didn't know that my brain would come back to it. I didn't have that lived experience that, okay, I'm going to trust my brain that I'll have it back again.
Whatever that beautiful bouquet where you were thinking about, I can come back to it.
I can come back to it, or, it might not be the same bouquet, but like that's the beauty of it, is it's going to evolve. And so I've learned radical acceptance, and I do find it interesting because I think about my creative outlets and all of the ideas that I've had, especially like with writing and like my characters that I've created, and hearing people say like, well, you need to copyright them because someone could steal them. And I was so worried about that for a while. And then as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, well, you know what? If someone steals it, okay, I'll have another one. Right? Like, sure, they can steal that idea, but I'm going to have 10 more, and I'm going to continue to grow, and they can't take that away from me.
So this feeling that whatever beautiful thing is happening in your mind might never come back was anxiety producing for you.
Yeah, when I'd have to stop it. Oh yeah, because it was like, also like I want to see where it ends, right? It's like saying to somebody, okay, you're gonna watch a movie, and I'm gonna cut you off like the last 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I did that to Mom last night. We were watching Notting Hill. And I said, oh, do you want to come back in a little bit? But I stopped it right at this moment. She's like, what a place to stop, Michelle. So we had to watch 10 more minutes till she could be ready to stop halfway through. Just because she and I never can get through a full movie anymore. But yeah, that was so interesting.
Oh, and I do that to Brian all the time because he'll stop something and I'm like, why would you stop it right there? It's the emotional part.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's the emotional part. Let's stop it right. I'm like, I'm in it. I'm in it.
That's totally, I am so Brian and Mom is so you. In terms of that's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So when you're thinking about the strategies you've used over the years, the idea that you always have something with you, it seems, is one of the strategies. You always have something.
I try to. Sometimes,
hard, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm learning now that that's actually really helpful for me to have something. So I think if I had built that into my life earlier, that would have probably helped. But there are things that I'm learning. Like for instance, like I have to have chapstick with me because that light stimulation actually can drive me crazy. And I hyper fixate on my chapped lips. And I get panicked, and I'm like, I literally have a chapstick everywhere I go. And if I had thought about it, like maybe I'll have like a little small Nido or something everywhere I go. I just have to, that part, I haven't allowed myself to care for my ADHD brain and not like caring, but like actually self-care for it. And so I'm interested. Like I just got this guy because I was like, well, I need something else in my bed, my desk, and like I need to get a couple other things. And so I'm just now starting to say like, well, let's look at some options. Like, what do we think would be useful?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something that's going to make me bleed.
Yeah.
Or rub my skin raw or whatever it is.
Well, and I guess I did it on my steering wheel. So yeah, I have. I just wouldn't have thought that like that's what I did. But I guess I instinctually did.
You sort of did it without thinking.
Yeah.
Without intention, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. I'm so curious with our community what other people use for light stimulation? Because I think that would be interesting to have a whole set of things that people could choose from and try, because I know you've tried various things and sometimes they work and sometimes they stop working.
Yeah.
And so then you need something new. I know with our family, you decided, like, let me put out this bowl of split peas once to try, because a lot of people in our family like to have something to kind of just do that light stimulation with. And you've always been looking for things like, what are sort of more updated, more adult looking things, because you didn't necessarily, although you do love kitty looking things, you love childlike looking things, but you also are like, well, if I'm at a fancy dinner party, I still
I'm not bringing the Nido. I'm not like, oh,
you're like, hi.
I got to go to the Air Force Ball. Like, I'm not going to be bringing this with me to the Air Force Ball, right?
Right. So, like, but what can you bring and what might be appropriate, for you at that moment?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, I got this, but, like, honestly, it is very childlike and it's fun. But yeah, I think that if I was really, I wouldn't have gotten this color, and this was like what was sent to me. It was like, there's some random color they send you. And I'm like, okay, that would have been nice to like know what color I was getting. But, I might have done something different. And yeah, but it's like, just to see, like, does this thing work? Like, can I break it? Like, will it eventually, puncture itself? I don't know.
Well, I would love it if you would post some of the things that you found that have worked for you.
Okay.
In this episode. And also, I'm really interested in, like, if our community has some ideas, because I think this is this ongoing lifelong need that you have. And so we need options.
Yeah.
We need options, people.
Well, because it would be nice, like, I've been squishing this for a while, and it'd be nice to like put it down and then to move on to like the next texture, something a little bit different. Because like sometimes the squeezing does kind of, you can only do so much, and then you need something.
And then the
different.
muscles hurt too, probably to some degree.
Although
you are strengthening your hands, so good job. Keeping your hand strength as we get older is important.
That's right. Yeah, strengthen those hand muscles.
Well, thank you for sharing with me today.
Thanks for asking and staying curious.
Absolutely, I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Sisters. This series has us focusing more specifically on ADHD and all of its symptoms, and we're doing a deep dive into a list that we got from the book Driven to Distraction. If you enjoyed the episode as much as we enjoy sharing off all of my weird, squishy things, then please share it with someone that you think could benefit from the conversation. Make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're currently listening to so that you can get notified each week. Next week, we'll be talking about the tendency to say what is in one's mind and getting carried away with enthusiasm. What? I don't do that. Are you sure? Oh boy, Michelle. Watch out. I'm coming in hot. But until then, here's to a great end of the week. And remember, stay curious.
We don't always have to be fabulous, but we do not get to see each other anymore daily. So when we see each other online like this, it's so fun.
It's like fun to just be able to have a moment to just chitter chat with you.
Yeah. And I always am thinking like, oh, should I be jealous of the weather where you are? And then my answer is always yes. I'm in Tucson, the middle of heat.
I know. I'm like, I always think like, I feel so bad that everyone else is back in Tucson, but I love it.
You actually have a sweater on, which I'm like, I can't even believe.
I know.
You would not be able to wear that in Arizona. I don't think I've even seen that sweater. I didn't know you had it.
I know.
It's so cute.
So cute.